on today's podcast, we have a guest who was recently named one of the top 5 personal branding speakers of 2019. She is the co-founder and CEO of Brand Builders Group, an international speaker, million-dollar consultant, and the host of the influential personal brand podcast. Please welcome AJ Vaden.
Hey, so
How are
happy to
you?
be here. I'm doing so well. I'm
I'm
so happy to be on your podcast. It's
I
gonna be
know. I'm
great.
so happy that you're here because you, my friend, are a wealth of knowledge. And I'm so excited for you to share that with everyone because I think that companies' reputation directly impacts their revenue. And I know that that is something that you focus on. So let's jump into that. Let's talk about how do we know if we're talking to the right crowd of people?
Yeah, so here's what I would say is so many organizations and agencies and companies spend so much time doing market research and data research. And we're super fans of data and research. We actually just did a 6-month national research study. So I'm not saying that's not important. It is. It is. But when it comes to how do you know if you're talking to the right audience, I think it's more of a personal question. And so many of the companies that we've been a part of in our previous life, we work strictly with individuals now, as you know, but they always talk about competitor analysis. And I always ask the same question: why are you basing your audience based on your competitor's audience? That makes no sense. And I would say, how do you know if you're reaching the audience? Is ask yourself, who do you want to reach? Who do you want to serve? And I don't think enough individuals and businesses actually put intentional effort into determining who was our company created to serve. And those are demographics and psychographics. And it has nothing to do with what the economy is doing or what the market is saying or what your competitors are doing. Like, forget all of that. And it's like, sometimes I think as business owners, we got to put a little bit of blinders on and go, stop comparing what we're doing to everyone else. Stop looking, stop asking, and just go, who do I want to serve? Like, who am I passionate about working with? And then where are they?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with like, we have to put the blinders on because we're so focused on so many different things that are happening. It's like, no, come back. We've got to focus on this because it's so important. What do you think are some tips that you could share with us about how we identify our ideal audience?
Yeah, it's something we say at Brand Builders Group all the time is that often, not always, but often you are best positioned to serve the person you once were. And so I would start there. It's like, where do you have a personal affinity? Like, what types of customers do you feel naturally drawn to? I would also say, like, which ones do you not? And stop working with them. But it's like, who are the people? What types of customers like fill you up? And it's like, man, like, this gives me life. And so some of the things that we would say is like, you need to know, how old are they? Like, where do they live? Right. So it's like those basic demographics of, is it a specific gender? Right? How old are they? And not, and here's what I would say: stop doing this. Anyone's a fit for what I do. It's like,
Totally.
sure, anyone could be a fit, but who is this built for? Who is it designed for? And that's a person. It's not a group of people. So how old, what gender, are they married? Are they single? How much money are they making? Where do they live? But then more importantly, it's asking yourself psychographic questions such as, what does this person care about? What are their fears? What keeps them up at night? But also, what are they passionate about? What are their dreams? And then just like, what questions do they have? What are they searching for? And it's like, you really got to get to the heart of the person that you were built to serve in order to figure out, how do I effectively market to this person? How do I find this person? Right? And that's rather in physical space or in cyberspace. But if you don't know the answers to those questions, then I would ask, well, then how are you effectively marketing?
And do you think that it's possible for us to have more than one audience as a business?
I think it depends on, do you have more than one product and service? So I think if you have more than one product and service, then it's likely that they have slightly different audiences. So at our company, Brand Builders Group, we've got 4 different services that we offer, and they are very intended for different audiences. Right. So we have a membership coaching program, we have live events, and then we have immersive sessions. Each one of those was built for a very different and very specific target audience. Now, there are through lines. There are very similar. What are they passionate about? What are they searching for? So a lot of the things are the same, but then there's also some very distinct differences of going, this product was built for this type of person, and this service was really designed to meet the needs of this type of person. But we were very, very intentional about knowing the different segments of our audience before we started building new products and services.
Do you think each one of those audiences is going to have a different message from the brand? I know you mentioned that you have the through line for those, but what do you think about what those different messages might be?
Yeah, our message is consistent. And it's like the person that we serve, all the people we serve have pretty much the same problem. And we have the same message, which is find your uniqueness. So I don't care who you are. Our message to you is find your uniqueness. But how you do it is where the differentiation comes in. So I think one of the things, if we just look at our business, Brand Builders Group, the problem we solve for our clients is, you could say it in one of 2 words: obscurity or anonymity. Anonymity. Such a tricky word. Anonymity. But it's basically someone who is unknown, right? Mm-hmm. And a huge part of that, our message for you is like, find your uniqueness, right? It is build your personal brand, but it is find your uniqueness. Now, we know that for the clients that we serve, some people want to do it on an ongoing path, and we have a service built for them. But those are the people, and I would say for them, it's the person who is looking for community. They want partnership. They want a all-encompassing and also a far-reaching relationship with us. So they're the people who are going, I know that my business is going to evolve as I go from idea to true business, and I want to walk with you the whole time. And that's what our coaching membership program is built for. But we have other clients who still, the problem they have is obscurity, the unknown, and they're still trying to find their uniqueness, but they're going, I need it done tomorrow. Like, I don't want to do this ongoing thing. I don't really want community. I need it done, and I need it done fast. And those are what our immersive sessions are for. So the problem, the message, the uniqueness is all the same for us, but how they get it is what makes the products and services very uniquely different for each audience.
I think that's what's great about Brand Builders, is that you've got all those different avenues that whichever way you want to go, you absolutely can go. So I think that brings up a really good point for us as small business owners too, is how do we know that we're talking to the right crowd? How did you guys develop that?
I wish I had some magical answer for you. But I'll tell you our philosophy, right, wrong, indifferent. I'm going to tell you our philosophy. We knew that we were talking to the right crowd because they were us. They were where we were, where we are, or where we want to be. And it was a very internal approach at going, these are the people that we're after. It was a very intentional, dedicated. It's like, we want people who are mission driven, who it is mission over money. And it's not that money's not important, but it's that those people who believe it's like, if I am doing what I was meant to do, money will come. And it's like, we know that we're talking to the right people when they share the same values and beliefs, and they're after the same thing, which is impact and influence, to do good, knowing that money and income will come from that. And so I think a lot of that was also spending times of getting really clear on, what do we believe? Not just what our why is, but what do we believe to be true about who we are and what we do and how we do it. And that also takes time. That takes time, and it also evolves over time. I would say what we believe to be true is different today than it was on day one of our business. And I think too, our audience and our customer base looks different today than it did on day one of our business. And that's okay too, because we're growing and maturing as both individuals and as a company. And so I find that our audience is also changing and evolving and maturing, and we're constantly getting more in line with finding people who have a shared set of beliefs and values that we do. And I think that's how we know that we're working with the right people. I also know exactly when we're not working with the right people, and it's like instantaneous. It's almost a feeling, right? It's like we even have our team, our employees, like this. Actually, it's so funny you brought this up. This literally happened yesterday. I was on the call with our director of community involvement, and she goes, "So we have a situation." I said, "Tell me more." She goes, "I don't know how this person has slipped through the cracks, but we have a new client who is not a cultural fit." And I said, "How do you know?" And she goes, "Well, quote unquote, his entire business model is hiring quote unquote hot chicks to make sales."
Wow.
And I was like, well, I hope that works out for him. But we're probably not the right fit for someone where they want to grow their business model in attracting hot chicks. And so, but it's like, we also are very clear on knowing it's like, if hot chicks is what you're after, we're just probably not the company for you. But guess what? There's lots of companies that is going to help you do that. Let us help you get in touch with them, and being okay with that.
Yeah. And I think that's what's different about brand builders, because it's something that you share with us too in the very beginning, is that there are people that may be your competitors. But the great thing about brand builders is there's so many people within that we're not competitors to each other. We're actually friends with each other. And it's so cool that this environment has been created where you can talk about someone, or you can talk about your business with someone that's in the same industry as you, and there's not that competition. There really is this helpfulness, and let's help each other, this togetherness that we can all grow at the same time. And I think that there's a lot of businesses that don't have that. So what's a way that businesses could discover what makes them different from their competitors?
I've got two things on this. And the first thing, this is, I love this conversation because this is just a internal philosophy that I don't really get to talk much about, but I don't actually believe in competitors. I don't believe in this whole concept of who's your biggest competitor out there. And I just don't believe in that. And people go, "Well, don't you have competitors?" And I'm like, "No, we don't." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have competitors?" And I'm like, I believe what makes us truly unique are our personal experiences, our personal expertise, our personal values, missions, and beliefs. And no one in the world on this planet Earth has my personal experiences and my personal expertise with my exact shared common values, beliefs, and cultural, what's important to me. That does not exist. So how could I have a competitor without having someone who does exactly what I do? Because I don't believe anyone else does that. Just like I don't believe you do. Mm-hmm. And so I tell people all the time, I was like, you don't have competitors, you have alliances. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what if we just stopped changing, if we just shifted how we see things and we changed our mindset around like, listen, instead of being like, how do I keep all these clients? It's like, no, it's actually, I don't do exactly what you need, but I've got a strategic relationship, a strategic partnership with this other company, this other firm who does something really similar to me, but kind of different. I think you would be a great fit for them. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. So instead of trying to hold on to the business, I think it's more of just having this open-handed approach of, I am not a fit for everybody, and they are not a fit for me. So I better have a lot of really good friends and businesses who do things similar to me, and that we can celebrate each other's differences and not try to absorb every single client, but instead share them. So that's my first thought. My second thought, which is something I'll talk way more about, is how to define your uniqueness. So I would say this is actually a huge part of the framework at our company, Brand Builders Group. And so I'll go through these 6 questions, and I would say it does not matter who you are, never even heard of a personal brand, startup mode, don't even have a business, but you want to build one too. You've got a 9-figure business and you're, all the things. Doesn't matter. But we say everyone, you can find your uniqueness by starting to ask 6 simple questions. Not easy, but they are simple.
Definitely not easy.
They're not easy, but they are simple. And so I'll run through these, what these are, but then there's one that's most important. So the first one, and the most important one, is what problem do you solve? That is the number one key to building a best-selling brand, is becoming known and becoming synonymous with a problem that you solve for your audience. And these are not multiple problems. This is one problem. These are not phrases or paragraphs explaining it. It's one word. So what problem do you solve in one word? And then we pair that and we ask a conflicting question, which is, but then what are you passionate about? Because I think most of us, especially business owners, we can solve lots of problems.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, I can do a whole bunch of Excel work. I would not say Excel is something I am passionate about, but I can solve a lot of problems with it. But it's like, what are you passionate about? Like, what fills you up? Like, if you didn't consider it work, what would it be? And it's like, we really want to go, it's like, you can do a lot, but what do you want to do? So what problem do you solve, and pair that with what are you passionate about? The next one is what do you have, or where do you spend time researching? What I would say is like, where's your expertise? So this would be your more academic, certification, professional, all the things, accolades. But it's like, where do you actually spend time researching and learning and being educated? So where do you have a kind of formal academic or credible background? But then pair that with, but then where is your real personal expertise? So that firsthand experience, that firsthand knowledge where, it's like, I didn't have to go to school for sales to have a lot of expertise in sales. So I may not have a formal credentialized academic background in sales, but I got a whole bunch of almost 18 years of very successful personal firsthand expertise in it. And so it's just pairing. It's like, where do all of your credentials lie versus where does your firsthand personal experiences lie? And then the third set of questions, which are paired, is what would people buy from you? Which is probably a lot of what you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Versus what business do you actually want to be in? And I would say it's like, you've got to have very clear answers to each of those 6 questions that will then allow you to go, wow, like, this is what's really unique and different about me. I think the other thing that we ask clients all the time is, what's your superpower? Like, what's your superpower? What do people come to for you more than anything else? Because often it has little to do with what you do, which is ironic, but it has everything to do with who you are. So it's asking, who am I versus what do I do?
I really want to talk about what you guys have been working on recently, because I think this ties into everything. This is about the study. So tell me more about this, because I've looked at it very briefly, but it's amazing.
Yeah, we're super fans of our own work. So happy to talk about it. So we spent 6 months earlier this year putting together and conducting basically a 6-month research study. We hired an independent PhD research firm to go out and field this study. And what we really wanted to know is, what are the perceptions and the impacts of personal brands in America today? And I'll just kind of give you some of like the highlights, the snippets here that I think are most fascinating. But here's the first thing that I think was most fascinating, is that 74% of Americans said that they are more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. Now, then the question is, then what is an established personal brand? Like, what is that? And let me tell you what it's not. It's not a celebrity. It's not an influencer. It's not someone who has a book or a podcast and all the things that people associate with it. People associate somehow having a personal brand is the same thing as being an influencer. It's not. It's not. The majority of all Americans said that they thought at the end of the day, a personal brand is simply someone whom they recognize. That's it. So that could be in your own company, in your local community, in your industry, or it could be, Mr. Worldwide Pitbull himself, right? It's like, it doesn't matter, but it's someone whom they simply recognize. And I think that's where this trust factor comes in, because the truth is like, if you don't know me, you cannot buy from me. And if you don't know me, you can't trust me. If you don't know me, you can't like me. And social media has definitely helped make this more prevalent, but it's not just about social media. And I thought that too was really interesting. And so one of the things that we asked is, what makes you most likely to follow, engage with someone online? And then what makes you least likely? And I think this is important because I know so many people who associate their success online with how many followers they have.
Agreed.
And the number of followers was the single-handedly across every single generation, the least important factor when deciding whom I watch, listen to, engage with, or follow. It was the least.
That's amazing.
Yes. And it's some of these things that come up where we've told ourselves these stories that aren't really true, which is why we went out to do this research study to begin with. I'll share two other quick things with you because I know that we're almost out of time and I could talk all day. But two other quick things I thought were really fascinating is what titles hold the most credibility in the marketplace today? And so the title behind your name. And I'm also not really a title person, but I thought this was fascinating. I thought it was so fascinating. And the three most significant or credible titles that people said they deemed as most credible, most trustworthy were CEO, owner, and expert.
Wow.
So to call yourself an expert, to own something, or to be the CEO of a company. Those were the three most. Let me tell you what the least were, which I thought were also fascinating. It was host, such as host of a podcast. Mm-hmm. It was trainer and coach. So I also thought those were really interesting because it takes a lot of work to be the host of a very successful podcast. And people are going, they just lump that in with everything else. And so then I'll share, this is the last thing that I thought was so wild. And because we said, what are the top three things is what we asked people to list. But what are the top three things that most influence your purchase decisions when deciding whom to buy from? I cannot even begin to tell you how floored we were and are still current day because of how much money and time and resources we spent into perceivably the wrong things. So I'll first start with telling you what they're not. And I'll just start with this. Having a blog, a traditionally published book, a New York Times bestselling book, or a self-published book. So again, blog, traditionally published, New York Times bestselling book, or a self-published book, all held the exact same weight.
That's crazy.
So let me just I can rather spend 5 minutes putting up a blog article or spend years trying to get a New York Times bestselling book, and they hold the equal significance in my purchase decision and working with you.
Wow.
The other things that were at the bottom of the list were having being the host of a podcast, having a viral YouTube video, having a TEDx talk. Those were all at the bottom of the list. Now, the number one thing, single-handedly, again, across all generations, that was the most impactful and most significant in influencing purchase decisions were third-party testimonials from your clients.
Wow.
They said the number one thing that's going to influence who I buy from is hearing from other people just like me who have worked with you and them telling me what it was like to work with you. Testimonials was the number one thing. More than a podcast, more than a book, more than a blog, more than all these other things. And it's the cheapest, fastest, freest thing you can do, which is great news for us. And so then number two was being hired to speak or consult on a topic. So again, being perceived as an expert. And then the third thing was a nice website.
It's like,
it was mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. So those are some of the tips.
You know what's exciting about that is for anybody listening who's like, I am called to create this thing and I don't know how to get there. Hearing that is probably so inspiring to know that I don't have to have a viral TED Talk. I don't have to have, 18 books behind it. I just need testimonials of people that have worked with me. And I know that there's so much more on that study that is mind-blowing. How can people get a copy of it? Because you're sharing it with everybody, right?
Oh yeah, we created this just for a value add to anyone who is interested in building their personal brand or curious of, what is a personal brand? And do I need one? And how do I get one? So if you go to brandbuildersgroup.com/study, you can download the full PDF of our national research study. And it also comes with 3 really cool infographics and also a set of shareable social media graphics that you can use to share the study online.
And one thing that I always ask all my podcast guests, and we have talked about so many amazing things, is what would be one piece of advice that you would give to a small business owner?
This is probably going to come out of left field. Become very familiar with tax code.
Yes.
This is like my number.
Underrated, right?
It's so underrated. But it's like you must be educated. You do not need to be an expert, but you cannot just assume that someone else is going to take care of your finances the way that you would. And if you're not willing to put time and money and effort and attention into learning the things that it takes to run a successful business, don't expect someone else to.
You can't.
That's crazy.
Yeah, nobody is going to take care of your baby as good as you will.
Preach. So I firmly believe that there are many things that are going to change in our life, but you paying taxes on your money ain't one of them. Mm-hmm. And so I just it was like my mission and my goal in 2021 to become very good at tax strategy, not to avoid paying taxes, but to just make sure I am paying my fair share, right? And I'm all about that, but not 1 cent more. And that takes a lot of work and information. And I found that many people who are in the profession knew this much more than me. And that was frightening to me. So I doubled down, not taking like 4 courses, reading books, I'm interviewing people. I changed CPA firms. Like I went all in. I was like, I got to find someone who is bringing me the strategies and ideas, not the other way around. But it's like, I sign up for every class or webinar or article and I'm going, what's new and what's different, because it's changing all the time. And it's like, if you don't know how to take advantage of it, then you are just sending money out the door.
And you've got to be willing to know that it's always going to change. And be willing to always be keeping up on it because, it's a lot.
It is. I think this was the one stat, and oh my gosh, do not hold me to these numbers because they're definitely not accurate. But there's something like 7,500 pages of tax code, of which only like 30 are actual what you should pay taxes on. The rest are exceptions to that. Wow. So let that sink in. I was listening to a webinar from a very national firm. And when they shared that, I was like, whoa, I got work to do. And that's what led me into this. And then I just realized, and we're in our, technically our 5th business, but our second full entity business with my husband, who's my business partner. And for the first 12 years of our former business, we were like, oh, there's people for that. There's professionals who do that. And really for the first year of Brand Builders Group, I was kind of like that. And then it was one thing that I heard at a EO meeting, an entrepreneurs organization meeting, that I asked my CPA about. And this one question caused me to do a full-blown investigation into the last 2 years of our taxes, which then led me to fire them and hire a new firm and said, never again will I be the victim of someone else's bad practices. That's my job. So that would be my tip and advice for any business owner.
Oh my gosh. That, and you know what? And it's not just your accountant. It's all the other services and things that you pay for. You got to be digging in and you got to be paying attention because people can take advantage of you when you least expect it. So I think that's awesome advice. Now, tell me where people can find out more about brand builders, the influential personal brand podcast. Where can people find all that stuff at?
Yep. If you just go to our website, we've got all the things, brandbuildersgroup.com. And you will find our podcast, what we do. We even offer a free personal brand strategy call if you want to investigate like what this really looks like for you. But you can do all the things at brandbuildersgroup.com.
I love that. Thank you so much for carving time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate it. There's so many good things that you shared with us, and I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes so people can find all the information super quick and easy.